Hello, somebody! We are back after a year and a half of not filming myself, and I immediately made a big fool of myself in front of White Truck Guy by driving into his way and then immediately backing up to where I had just came from. I've been consensually sleeping on an air mattress for about a year and a half, and have always threatened to build myself a quality bed. I had all sorts of dreams about exotic and expensive woods, but at the last minute, as I was driving to pick up the wood, I decided to switch to cherry because it's cheap, and it still looks very nice. Speaking of things that look very nice, one thing that I think looks very nice is a good pair of legs. I am an enjoyer of smooth, sleek legs that are strong and sturdy at the top, and gently taper down in a wonderful fashion as you get closer to the ground. As is common with most beds these days, this bed will have a leg at each corner for optimal support. I am using a piece of 8/4 for the legs. I cut them down to rough size on the miter and the table saw, and then it was time to head over to the milling machines. I've had the joiner that you're about to see for almost 2 years now, but I believe this is its internet debut. It gave me an edge and a face that are flat and square to each other. And let's take a brief time out and reveal the mystery of what hides beneath that red cloak of wonder and glory on the joiner. The last step of the milling process is to run all of the pieces through the planer to get all 4 sides flat and square. When cutting the legs down to final length, I was less concerned with the actual total length of each leg and more concerned that they both be exactly the same length, whatever that length may be. So I taped them together and cut both at the same time. I used a piece of 3/4 inch ply as a backer for the headboard, and I cut that down on the table saw. My second cut needed to be wider than the table saw capacity, so I flipped the piece around, measured and marked, and used the cutoff side as a reference to the table saw fence. This was a little bit sketchy, but it did get the job done. Of all the things that are wonderful in this world, this machine is up there with eating sausage and showering in the nude. Behold the Craig Foreman. It has a drill underneath the table, which is advanced when you pull the handle on top, making for some very fast pocket hole drilling. Also, somebody from a design team needs to be fired because this tool has a vacuum attachment that actually fits onto a vacuum. I lost a little bit of footage around this time, so I only have a video of me drilling the holes for the footboard, but the headboard was the exact same process. Alright, so there's a chance that I lost a bunch of footage. I'm not really sure what's going on. I'm very confused. However, this is the bed. It feels very disproportional, and I assembled the head and footboard somewhat, but now I'm actually going to take it apart to cut a taper on all the legs. It's a very small taper. You can probably barely see it with this template, but that's just going to go on the 2 inside faces of the bed. So I'm going to take everything apart. Everything is marked on the tops, so I know where to cut, and I'm going to cut tapers on everything. Onward. Here's a brief video of my arm to represent the fact that I drew tapers on all of these legs. Something very foolish would be to cut these tapers without any guides or jigs using the table saw. So rather than even entertaining that idea, I will be cutting them out on the bandsaw. The table saw is sort of like the blender of a woodworking shop. It is very useful for cutting things up, but if you put your hand in it, it would really hurt. Both me and my bandsaw blade are a little bit dull, so these cuts were far from straight. Because there were 2 cuts per leg, I found it easiest to make the most out of one cut, then do the second cut, and then come back and finish the first one. I like smooth legs, so I smoothed out my saw marks with the disc sander after everything was cut. My pursuit of smooth legs continued in the form of sanding all of the legs to 220 grit. The deeper and deeper I get into all this woodworking nonsense, the more I realize that a good project relies heavily on how patient you are in the final steps. Great design, careful cuts, mid-century modern, Frank Lloyd Wright, precision and elegance, respecting the grain, considering wood movement, natural beauty, all this and more can be executed flawlessly, but unless the sanding and finishing process is done carefully and slowly, it will not look and feel like a high-quality craftsman product. It's so easy to feel a little bit burnt out and want the project to be done and rush these steps, and I actually have a neat little trick for people who tend to rush things right at the very end. Don't do that. Throwing together the footboard assembly was very simple, because I had already test assembled it off camera, so the screws just found their respective holes and set no problem. There was a little bit of glue squeeze out that I cleaned up with a rag soaked in apple juice, and then I couldn't help but enjoy the colors of the wood that the apple juice brought out, so I just wiped it all over the whole piece. Off camera, I glued these little blocks on either end of the footboard, and this is just to create more surface area to screw in the bed assembly hardware. This is something that I could have planned for, but I bought the hardware after starting the bed and just didn't really think about it. Luckily, it will be hidden from sight, and because it's my bed, I am okay with this kind of unique design feature. Doing this voiceover now after using the bed for a few weeks, I am so glad I put this little footboard topper on. I put my phone on it to charge at night, which forces me to actually sit up to turn off the alarm in the morning. Why am I doing this in such an odd way? I don't really know what led me to think that putting my work pieces on top of a bunch of rubbish was going to be the easiest way of screwing these pieces together, but I came to my senses and just let gravity and my workbench do their thing. I put another little topper piece on top of the headboard, which has also been very helpful. It's wonderful for storing drinks and books that I don't actually even read in places where they might just fall on my face at night. Oh, at last, we reached the part of the project that I've been yearning for this entire time. Building the frame had started to drag on, and I was very excited to start on the final building step. Time to make my little pillowed blocks. I milled up a bunch of cherry, and then did some silly math and cut one piece down to the right size. Locked the blade down and set up a stop block, and then began to slice and dice. All of these blocks measure roughly 6 inches by 4 inches, and I used the largest roundover bit that I own to make them have a bit of a pillowed effect. One would think that one of the options for safer fingers would be to use a push block, but I actually tried that, and it was far sketchier than just doing it with my hands. I've grown way too comfortable with my table saw, but I'm still afraid, so afraid of my router. So believe me when I say that if doing it by hand felt dangerous in the slightest, I would not be doing it. I am very proud to say that I completed all my educational pursuits for the foreseeable future without the help of AI. I got my associate's degree around the time that it was starting to be a big deal, but I really just wasn't aware of it. I still am extremely skeptical of it, but it is slowly growing on me. This is mostly due to one of my roommates who uses it like some kind of indentured research servant. He will use it in the kitchen to discover concepts I haven't even considered, coming up with new and risky recipes and mixing spices that I would argue should never be mixed, and seeing what dishes he can make if the only ingredients he has are lettuce and bread. His influence has caused me to, while running out of things to say in this video, turn to AI for a solution. It told me that I could experiment with silence, so enjoy the next 35 seconds of not just silence, but experimental silence. This bed is a really strange thing to document building in a remotely captivating fashion, because it is all just very basic techniques over and over and over again. I'm also currently 4 days late and very burnt out editing this, because I just filmed the entire thing without even considering editing it. So now I have like 7 hours of footage to sift through, and a lot of it is just basic milling. The sides, legs, footboards, and the little pieces I'm screwing to the sides are all just the same basic process of milling a board. There isn't anything flashy or uniquely different besides the actual dimensions of the pieces, and that has me in a tizzy about editing it. Also, there are almost always 2 of everything. So do I show everything twice, or do I just show it once and move on and allow the viewer to assume that I do it again? I'm not really going anywhere with this, so I guess just, if you find this video confusing and difficult, I do too. Like and subscribe, I guess. Behold the cheapest bed hardware I could find online. I was initially skeptical of them, but didn't want to spend any more money than I had to on this bed. And after assembling them and using the bed for a couple of weeks, I have no concerns about the structure of these pieces. I drilled pilot holes just so that I wouldn't split this wonderful cherry. And I did install them upside down once and then in the wrong place another time before I got it all to work, but I am very impressed by the quality of these things. I really wish I had just saved time and sprayed this polyurethane instead of brushing it on, but I didn't, so enjoy about a minute of finish application. wretched process of never-ending cutting up trees and gluing them back together again. How close we are to being done with this bed. I opted to finish all of these blocks individually before gluing them to the headboard so that I wouldn't have to fight with getting finish into the cracks between all the pieces. This proved very worthwhile and is such a joy and a relief to see the bed finally look pleasant and finished. Originally for my bed design, I had planned to incorporate all kinds of curves and different species of wood, and I could not be any more pleased with the fact that I didn't do that. I think something I'm still trying to learn is that the most complex and time-consuming way isn't always the best way. What I ended up with isn't overly obnoxious or impressive, but I am very proud of how it turned out. Assembling the bed was wonderful, and I was immensely pleased at how much more sightly my room is now that I've removed my air mattress and put this thing in instead. And having this piece of furniture that I built and that I use every day makes me feel very fancy and full of some purpose, and I feel slightly more put together and organized. If you made it through this whole thing, you're either very strange or related to me. Or both. Thanks for watching. Until next time, go find some crocodiles. Nice.
Little footboard too, that's nice.
Yes. Man. Yay!